Alright, it's time to pick up from where we left off in the last video. If you remember, we were able to run around and control the character, have him animate, and stop and have the camera follow him, and that's just about it. So next up, I want to get him actually shooting and blowing things up. So to do that, we're going to stop playing, go in and find the player, and let's take a look at the inspector again. You see he's got the player movement script, and we want to give him a script for shooting, and I don't want to just shove all this into player movement because this is for movement. I want to keep the scripts kind of single responsibility, just doing a single thing, keep it nice and clean. So I'm going to add a new script. I'm going to go into the scripts folder, and I've cleaned this up just a little bit. Just got the player movement script here and got rid of the old one. And I'm going to go in and add a gun. So just name the script gun, capital G, and open that up in Visual Studio. Now the gun is going to have a damage amount, and it's going to have a fire rate. And I think I'm going to keep it unlimited ammo for now. So I'm going to add two fields. I'm going to do a serialized field, do a private float fire range, and I'm going to set that to 1. And then I'm going to do another serialized field, and I'm going to do a private int damage, and I'm also going to set that to 1 for now. For these, I want to add a range attribute though. So I'm going to add range up here, and then do 0.5f, and then a comma to 1.5f. So this is going to make it work as a slider for the range, so I can go between 0.5 and 1, and we're defaulting to 1, or 1.5, and we're defaulting to 1 right in the middle. And I'll do the same for damage, because I don't really want damage ever to be less than 1, so I'm going to set a range of, let's just go 1 to 10 for now. I mean, I can adjust that later. I just really want to keep it so it doesn't go below 1 ever. Now, in my update script here, I don't need start, so I'm going to delete that. And just go down to update, and in here what I want to do is check to see if the player has pressed the fire button and my weapon is actually ready to fire. And this says range, that's supposed to be fire rate, not range. This is how fast we fire. So I guess the first thing I need to do is start a timer for my weapon fire rate. So I'm just going to do timer plus equals time.delta time. Then I'll hit control period and generate a field. Oh, oops, let's see. It's not going to let me generate a field named timer. Generate a variable named timer. There we go. So now I have a private float named timer. It's defaulting to 0. Every frame, it's going to increment by how much time has passed. So it's just counting up in seconds. Now, if the timer is greater than or equal to the fire rate, what I want to do now is go in and look and see if the player is pressing or holding down the fire button. So I'll do if input get button, and I think I want to just do get button, not get button down. The difference here is if I use get button, I'll be able to hold the button down and continue to fire. It'll just fire at the fire rate and repeat. If I use get button down, I'll have to click each one individually. And you can see that right here. It says it returns true when the button is held down. And if I use get button down, let's see, let's get the IntelliSense on there. It returns true during the frame when the button is pressed. So I'm going to use get button, and the name of the button is just fire 1. And this will map to left control space, left click, the A button, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And if you want to see the things that it's mapped to, you can actually just do that under here. Go to edit, project settings, and input, and then expand out the axes and look for fire 1. So it's defined here up the top, and it's bound to left control mouse 0, and then it's also defined down here where it's hooked up to joystick button 0, and that's mapping to a whole bunch of things. Alright, so let's jump back into the code. So if they press fire 1, the timer has passed, so they're ready to shoot and they press fire 1. I want to set the timer back down to 0, so that way they don't fire every frame. It resets, and then they have to count back up to the 1 second. And then in here I want to actually fire my weapon. So I'm going to call a method named fire gun. And it doesn't exist yet, so just hit control period to generate the method. Now in here, I'm going to do a raycast, and I want to raycast out into the world and try to hit something. And I'm going to start with just doing a debug raycast drawing, I think. So let's do this. We'll go debug.drawRay, and we'll do it from transform.position to transform, and in transform.forward direction. So this gives us the origin and the direction. And I'm going to multiply this by 100. I want this to be a nice long ray. I'm going to give it a color, color.red, and a duration for how long we want it to stay up. And I'm going to keep this thing up for 2 seconds. So that way, when I shoot, I'll be able to see a red line to show where I'm shooting. And then our code in just a moment will actually use that ray data to actually fire and try to hit something. So let's hit play. And I'm going to pull the game view off to the side of the scene view. Find the character. There he is. And then click. Move around and click. Oh, I don't have the script assigned. Not a problem. Select the player. Add the gun script. Now click. And there we go. You can see the shot kind of coming out. And it's coming right out of his feet. The reason for that is it's set up to use his transform position, which is right at the base of his feet, and then in his forward direction. So it's going the right direction, but the position's a little off. I don't really want to shoot from the feet. I want to shoot from up here by the gun. Now, you might think we could just shoot from the gun as the transform and kind of use that, but the way the thing animates, the gun sometimes is up, sometimes it's down, wiggles off to the side, and we don't really want, like, for instance, if I'm running like this, I don't want the shots to be all over the place just because of the animation. So what we're going to do instead is expand out the player, and under the player Toon Soldier demo, I think, I'm going to right click, create an empty game object, and I'm going to name this fire point. And I'm going to go to it in the scene view, and you can see we've got this little transform right here. It's pointing out that way. Not what I want. I want to go up near the center of his body, and then I want to rotate it. So I'm just going to grab this and drag, and it looks like I'm going to be rotating on Y. And if I switch over here, oh whoops, I'm in the wrong mode. I need to switch to local mode. He was oriented the right way, so I'm going to undo my Y rotation. And the difference here is I didn't notice I had switched into local mode here, so the blue was facing that way, and I'm in local mode. Now blue is facing his actual forward. Just didn't realize the button shift there, and figured that was something worth pointing out. So there we go. I've got it kind of where I want it. I think I'll raise it up just a little bit. Just kind of coming right out of his chest. A little bit off to the side is fine, but I think just out of the chest is good. So I've got a fire point right there. Oh, I do want to pull this away from his character just a little bit. So it's not inside the body. Now I want to use this transform for the position and the orientation instead of his feet. So to do that, I'm going to go back into the gun script, and I'm going to make a private transform. There we go. And I'll call this fire point, and I'll add the serialized field attribute to it. Oops. Just like that. And then down here when we fire the gun, I'm going to replace this local transform. So instead of using the guns transform, I'm going to use the fire point transform, position and forward. Then I'll jump back over to the editor, select the player, and find the gun component, which remember I added at runtime, so it's missing. So I'm going to re-add that. There we go. And now I have a fire point variable or field right here that I can assign. So I'm going to take the fire point child of the player, drop that in. Now I also have the damage slider here, so I can go up and down and set it in a slider value, and the fire rate that I can kind of adjust and slide back and forth, or I could type over here in the box. So let's hit play and try this one more time. Now I should get a ray kind of shooting out of the chest, and that's kind of more what I was looking for. And notice that I can only shoot every, I'm clicking pretty fast, but I'm only getting a ray every 1 second. If I slide this down, I can hold the button down, and you'll see the number of rays that I'm putting out is going up quite a bit. So I'm firing more often. All right, so we've got a ray that's drawing into the world, but we want this to actually hit something and blow a thing up. So to do that, we're going to do a raycast. So I'm going to start with ray, so type of ray, variable named ray. So we're just creating a ray, naming it ray with a lowercase r, and it equals new ray, and we're going to get firepoint.position and firepoint.forward. And here we don't need to multiply the forward, because that's just something we need to do in the debug draw array to tell it how far to draw out. Here we're just creating a ray that's just the direction. The forward is normalized and small. We'll be putting in a distance in the raycast instead. Now we'll do raycast hit info. And we just need to define this and not assign anything to it. What's going to happen is the raycast call that we're going to make is going to fill this thing with data if it hits something. If it doesn't hit anything, we won't fill it, and it'll just be empty and it won't get used. So next line, we want to do if physics.raycast and then we open up a parentheses, and you see this has 16 overloads. The one I use most often is number, I think it's number 8. No, number 10. I think number 10 is the one I use the most. And then sometimes I'll use the one without the layer mask, where it's a raycast hit info, a max distance, and a layer mask. There are a lot of options here. Most of the time I just wanted to shoot a straight ray out, hit a single thing, and get that thing back. So what I'm going to pass in is ray. And then for the second parameter, we'll do out hit info. And then we need a max distance. I'm going to make it go 100 meters. And I think that's correct for this one right here. So overload 6, that's what I'm using. If I don't put any more parameters in, this is the one that'll be used. And it's important when you're doing this raycast to just really double and triple check your parameters. Make sure that you have them in the right order and that it's using the right overload. Otherwise, you'll either get a compiler error or some weird functionality that you thought you were passing in a distance, but that was the layer mask, and the layer mask is in the distance spot. Now nothing's working and you don't know why. Just double check your raycast parameters and make sure that they're all correct. All right, so this is going to return true if we actually hit something, and if we hit something, it's going to fill hit info with the thing that we hit. So what I want to check now is if this hit info thing has something that we can do damage with. In fact, let's keep it super simple and just do destroy hitinfo.collider.gameObject. So what'll happen here is if we hit something and it has a collider on it, it's going to get destroyed. Of course, it has to have a collider to get hit with the raycast. So let's go back into the game. And I'm going to select these cars, and they have colliders. Perfect. So I'm going to hit play, shoot the cars, and if I didn't make any mistakes here, the cars just kind of disappear. There we go. Yep. Everything I shoot at disappears. You can see the whole world is blowing up around me every time I shoot something. And here, let's watch it in the scene view too, so you can see the little rays shooting out. There we go. I get my rays out. Everything's blowing up. Okay, so that's how you do a raycast and destroy something, but we don't want to destroy something. We want to damage a character, right? We want a bad guy that we can shoot at and hurt. We're going to start without art, and then we'll drop in some art for our character. So let's just begin by creating an empty game object. Not an empty one. Let's go with, let's create an empty game object. Let's call it enemy. And then under the enemy, we'll create a capsule. Just going to make a capsule bad guy for now. I'll take the enemy and drag him up so he's just above the ground, and then take the capsule and move the capsule's Y position to 1. So what I want to do here is have the base of the enemy kind of at the ground, and then the art offset up enough so that it's level. Normally a model is going to have the root at the base right here, but since I'm using a capsule, it's up here, so I need to offset it so that he's not sliding through the ground. So I've got an enemy there, and the enemy is going to need a way to take damage. So what I want to do now is create a new script and just name it health. And this is just going to be a generic health script that we can use across multiple things. Our enemy will take out damage and have health. Maybe our player will have health and take damage. Anything else that we want to put health in, could just use this script. So I want to start with a serialized field that's a private int called starting health. And I'm going to default it to, let's default it to 5 for now. And then I'll do a private int current health. Just to keep track of how much health we have at the current time, right? Delete start and do a private void on enable. So whenever we enable this thing, we want to reset the health. So just current health equals starting health. So now when it enables, its health gets reset. The next thing I want to do is make a method to take damage. So I'm going to do public void take damage, pass in, or allow for an int to be passed in for let's call it damage amount. And then I want to subtract damage amount from my current health. So just do current health minus equals damage amount. That'll just subtract damage amount from current health and update current health to be equal to that. It's the same as doing current health equals current health minus damage amount. Then I want to check to see if I'm dead. So we'll just do if current health less than or equal to 0, die. Now generate a method called die. Again, control period in Visual Studio. pops this up, and I just hit enter when it's on generate method. And now I've got a new method for dying. The base death functionality would just be to disable the game object, right? So just do game object set active false. So now this thing, when it gets shot the first time, its health should go down by 1 or however much it is. If we get down to 0 or less, the game object's deactivated. There we go, that's the word. And we can't shoot it anymore. By the way, it's I have a shortcut in here, Control-Shift-U, to remove all those unneeded using statements. That's what you see right here when those disappear. There's a setting in Visual Studio you can go change and make a hotkey to remove unneeded using statements. I forget what the original is, so I remapped it to Control-Shift-U because it's nice and easy to use. All right, so let's go back in here. I've got an enemy. It doesn't have a health script on it, and the collider is down here. That's the problem too. So I'm going to do a couple things. First, I'm going to remove this mesh collider, this capsule collider. And I'm going to go up to the enemy, and I'm going to add a capsule collider. And then I'm going to offset the Y position by 1 and set the height to 2. So this should give me a collider that matches, but now the collider's not on this child. I don't want the collider on the art part, I want it on the parent that's moving around. So I've just taken it off of the child here and put it onto the parent. So this way, if I swap out the art, I still have a collider that I can shoot and everything works. And it also allows me to just go on here and do add component and add the health component. It's got 5 health. Now it has a collider, so when I shoot this thing, I'll be able to get the health script and make it take damage. Okay, so I've got the enemy here. I've got the health script on it. Got the collider. Let's go back over to the gun script one more time before we hit play. So right here on line 43, instead of destroying the thing that I shoot, what I want to do is call, or I guess I'll go var health equals hitinfo.collider.getComponent of type health, and then close that off with the parentheses. And this is just going to get the health component on this game object. So if I shoot this thing, and this is the collider that the raycast hits, it's going to get me this health object back, and that'll be assigned right here. And then I'll just do if health is not equal to null. That's because if I shoot a wall or a door or a building or a car that doesn't have health, this is going to return back null, and health info will be null, not have anything there. If I don't check this for null, it's going to blow up, and really I don't want to try to reduce the health of something that doesn't have health anyway. So if health info is not null, or health is not null, so I have a health, I'm going to do health.takeDamage, and I'll pass in my damage amount. Remember, we've assigned that up above right here. It's editable in the inspector. Let's remove those using statements. And we can adjust that, and we're just passing in the amount of damage. So I think we're good now. I think if I hit play, we should be able to walk up, shoot that guy, do some damage to him, and have him blow up. Let's give it a try. So I walk up to him. Oh, my ray hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he's dead. His health went down. He died. Perfect. Exactly what I want to see. All right, so let's see. I think now that we've got him blowing up, we should add a little bit more flair. Maybe add in some particles to show that we're shooting. Put in a model for this guy and have him move around. I think I'll do a little bit more of that today, and then split this off into just another part where we'll dive in a little bit more. So let's do that. Let's start off by adding a little bit of a muzzle flash to the front of the gun. Maybe a bullet effect sound, a shot or something. I have a muzzle particle that I will link in the description below. And I'm going to pull it in right here. Just drop in this little muzzle flash. And it just goes into a particles folder. It's just a particle I had done for some other projects. And I'm going to go over to this fire point right now. And if you go over to the scene view and hit F, it'll focus that thing, and then I can kind of just zoom in. There's the fire point. Oh, wait, that's right. I don't want to do it at the fire point. I want the muzzle flash to come out of the edge of the gun. So what I'm going to do instead is expand this out. Just keep expanding. Hold Alt and left click to expand all the way. And I want to find this one. So I've got a weapon container here. And then there's a hand. I'm going to go under the weapon container, and I'm going to drop the muzzle flash as a child of it. Now, I'm going to reset the position because I don't know where that went. And now it's right here. So I want to slide this over this way. Just a little bit. Oh, okay, that's some weird offsetting, but not a big deal. And get right here, and then I'm just gonna hit restart and watch it. Okay, so it's firing downward. So I need to rotate it. Just flip it up this way. It looks like it's just gonna be 90 on the Y. Let's hit restart, restart. There we go. It's a little bit better. I'll go over to this side. You can see it's a little bit offset, so I'll just move it down, try to get it right in the right place. It's one of those things, just a little bit of finessing, get it placed where it should be. Still off a bit. Just got to see it from a couple different sides. Sometimes I'll use the top-down view too to do these, but I think that's probably good enough. So I've got a muzzle flash particle here attached as a child to the gun, and you can see when I play, it's just gonna give a little flash. Now, what I want to do is go to my gun, and I'm gonna add a yeah, I think I'm just gonna add it right here. I'm gonna add a serialized field, and it's gonna be private particle system, and we'll call this muzzle particle. Now, at the moment, this class is starting to get a little bit big, and it's getting kind of close to the point where I'd start considering making the muzzle into a separate script or making the flash into a separate one, but I think we still have a little bit more room here before we really have to do that. So what I want to do is instead just right here in fire gun, I'm just going to call muzzle particle.play and save. And I don't know if I need this ray anymore, so I'm just going to comment the ray out for now. Okay, so we've got that there, and what we need to do now is go to the player. We should get our new field and just assign the muzzle flash. And this is just going to let me play a gunshot muzzle flash every time I shoot. There we go. Drop that in, hit play, and let's see. There we go. Every time I shoot, you should see a little flash appear. There we go. Every time, there it is. Perfect. So I've got a little muzzle flash there. And I could scale that up and make it bigger or something. I could also feel like the fire rate on this thing should be quite a bit higher, right? Looking at the gun up close. Actually, what I'm going to do is go into this gun script, and I'm going to turn this fire rate way down. Let's go to 0.1 as a minimum, and I'm going to set it to like 0.3. 0.3, and I got to put an F there because I put a decimal in here with a float and just part of the mono stuff. So, okay, we've got the gun there. Let's shoot really quick. I just want to see what it looks like shooting fast. And then I think we'll add in a sound effect and wrap it up for today. There we go. Now you can see just constant flashing. Probably a little too fast. But it also shows a little bit of offset. Not good enough, though. So I can shoot. I can blow things up. I can shoot up that bad guy. He should be dead. There we go. He's dead. Okay. So let's add a sound effect, and then we'll wrap this up. So I'm going to create an audio folder here in our root, and then just drop in a gun sound that makes sense. You know, pick whatever gun sound you want to use. I'm going to use this one and go back over to our player and reopen the gun one more time, and now it's really getting iffy. Starting to add too many things, but we're going to do one more. The private audio source, and we'll call this gunfire source. And now I also want to play this whenever I fire the gun. So I'm going to go right here and go .play. So gunfire source is going to play and the particle system is going to play. And I need to add that audio source. So go in here to the audio and select the soldier, or the player, sorry, not the soldier. And drop that right on. We should get, oh, that's right, they changed it. What I'm going to do instead is go right here to the player and add an audio source component. And then I'll assign the MP5 to that audio clip. Now, oh, and I want to uncheck play on a wait. Otherwise, it's going to start playing. So now when I click, it should shoot and we should hear something. Oh, nope. Oh, I didn't assign it. Look right here. No reference exception. If I click on it, you'll see it selects the player, telling me there's an error there. If I click on the player, you can see that we don't have the gunfire source assigned. So let's just assign it. Click and there we go. I don't know why why he's not dying. Why is he not dying? Am I not facing the right way? I'm not very good at shooting. But you get the idea. Sound effects working. The particles working. It's nice and loud. So I think in the next part, we'll jump into replacing this guy with a character that animates, play some hit animations, maybe splatter some blood, some of the more fun stuff. But for now, you should be able to take this setup character, have that character be shootable. I'll blast them with a gun, hook up some sounds, hook up some particles, and just kind of move on from there. So again, if you have questions or just have things that you kind of want to see added to this little series, just drop a comment below and let me know. If something didn't make sense or I went too fast on some part, just, again, let me know, drop a comment, and I'd be happy to try to re-explain things. All right, thanks for watching. Don't forget to share, like, and all the other fun stuff.